All opinions expressed by the program participants are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Upscale Love for You. The program participants' opinions are based on the information that they consider from their own knowledge. No expressions or accuracy is related to Upscale Love for You.
Welcome, everyone. I am yours truly, Dr. Fabulous. I am definitely back from my cruise, and I'm excited about being back tonight. And tonight we're going to have a very hot topic. I am your CEO and host of the wonderful Upscale Love for You. And tonight I'm going to send it over to my co-host, Dr. Feelgood, to introduce himself, and we'll carry on from there. Dr. Feelgood.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Feelgood, the man with the golden voice, the ladies' choice, and of course, smooth as a Rolls Royce. Coming to you live from the 571, where I'm having fun and I'm getting things done. I stay busy, so you'll be busy by keeping up with the questions and answers. Today, we're talking about generational curses, those things that happen over and over and over again, and especially in our community, ours meaning the melanated kind, but it happens to everybody. We want y'all to be involved, be engaged. Everybody's opinion counts. And I want to ask one thing before I pass it on to my favorite girl, the Chocolate Pearl. I ask that we're starting a mailing list. We would like you to be a part of it to let you know all the good things that's coming up. If you can put it in the chat box on where, what part, your email address, we'll get you on that mailing list. And our email is upscalelove4you@gmail.com. So when you see that, don't let it go to the trash, but have some cash and give it the gas. Now to you, my favorite sister from the same mister. Of course, my other sister's on, and she's my evil Lynn, but she's my girl too. Go on, Chocolate Pearl.
I really was about to say your favorite what?
Hey, it's Chocolate Pearl, everybody, the favorite girl. I'm here to turn up your world upside down with this new topic. I hope y'all be ready to say some good stuff and get into this topic tonight. As of tonight, we are going to fire it up like we did last week and have some good conversation. Now to you, Dr. Seductive.
Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Seductive, the lady who is thick as honey and just as sweet. Tonight's topic is sure to be a treat. So sit back, enjoy, and get ready to feast on these seductive drops of honey.
All right. Well, good evening once again. And those of you who are joining us for the very first time for Upscale Love for You, welcome. And the purpose of Upscale Love for You is formulated to entertain, to educate, and facilitate self-help, self-love, and everything you want and wish to know about love and relationships, dating, and also marriage. Upscale Love for You is often known as the centerpiece of the room. You will know about several different hot topics, not just about romance, but about everything you need and wish to know. So please don't let this be your first time or your last time. Come and check us out every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Upscale Love for You. And now we're going to go ahead and get started. And as they stated, we are talking about the generational curse. And Douglas, you asked, what is a generational curse? A generational curse is a habit or behavior that has been passed from one generation to the next. Parents strive to make sure that the life they lead will help their children's lives, and to help them live a better life. Children practice what they have learned on their own and what they gather from generations before. So, with no further ado, I'm going to introduce to some the one and only Frank Evans. And he's all the way in the wonderful Baltimore Chocolate City, right? Or is it DC? You're talking, but I can't hear you, Frank.
Let me unmute this. And yeah, I'm somewhat in between. I'm close to the FedEx field at the moment, but of course I spend a lot of time in Baltimore and also in DC from the area. So thank you for the wonderful introduction. I appreciate that.
Okay.
All
So
right.
you want to tell
Uh,
us your thoughts and views on generational curse, your experience, or I don't know how
yes.
you want to jump in, but just jump in.
Okay, sure. And anyone, jump in with me. But for myself, a generational curse, you gave a great definition, mentally, or a habit. And that's negative, of course, for it to be a curse, because there's good habits that you can have that can help, you know, uh, make it a generational blessing. But for me, I'm always going to be coming from a spiritual side, because I'm always trying to uplift the spirit. I'm a heavy in worshiping a one God creator, so I do follow his laws, but I don't want to come off religious. But there are some basic principles that if we follow, no matter what you believe in, that it will help for the better. So generational curse for me definitely starts with a mentality. I say that because a lot of, especially African American families, being in being born and raised in Prince George's County, a lot of African Americans they want to leave a legacy. You hear that word, leave a legacy. I want to leave generational. I want to create generational wealth. Is what a lot of you hear a lot of people speak about. And for me, generational wealth starts with a mentality, because you can have two kids raised in the same household. One, if you give him riches, it will destroy him. Another one, if he get riches, it will improve him, depending on their habits, their choices in life. So I believe just teaching and helping our youth with making sound decisions, at least showing them the way. They still have to make a choice. Putting that faith base back in our families, where we seek high morals first. I think that will break a lot of generational curses, because for myself, being a successful business person, you can take everything I have from me today. And because I've been through the struggle, because I paved the way, because I still want to keep my integrity, I'm still going to keep my morals, I'm still going to be able to keep my relationships that build the wealth in the first place, and I can be successful again. So even if I don't have wealth, even if I don't have money today, um, because I already paved my way and learned and had a taste of success, I know what it takes to get there. A lot of families, they say, hey, I want to leave my child a house because I work hard. I want to leave them these houses. But if they don't know the route that you took, if they don't know what hard work is, all they're going to do is destroy it. And some investors going to come along and swipe it right under their feet. They're going to take everything that you work hard for if they don't know how to manage, if they don't have the right temperament. So, if they got an addiction, anything that morally is off is another way for someone to come and take what you build upon. So that's just one of the things about generational wealth and why I say it's a mentality. So,
Frank, when you see the little hands go up, that
mhm.
means they have a question about something you said. So you can
Okay.
take hands and go from there. I just wanted to let you know, just in case you didn't know what the hands was for. Okay.
All right, perfect. Yeah, Dr. Feelgood. Uh, I don't know if I should be calling Dr. Feelgood, but I'll just go.
You can
That
just
sounds a
say,
little weird.
you
but
can just
that's
say
okay.
you can just say DFG. That's
Yeah.
okay. I'm correct. You can call me anything as long as you respect. You put some respect on my name.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Yes, sir.
anyway, speaking of generational wealth, generational curses, generational blessings, I was going to talk about this earlier, but this is a good time to bring it up. The average family that has wealth, by the third generation, they're broke, because it's not the knowledge that's not passed down, it's the work ethic. People when people come into money, if not managed properly, they become complacent and they have an entitlement attitudes. They have an entitlement attitude. They become less likely to maintain the wealth. You give our former president as an example. The last guy in office, I don't want to say his name. His father was extremely rich. He's rich. His kids are sort of rich. His grandkids will probably be broke. And I'm talking broke. So that's, was it the smarts that were passed down? No, it's ruthlessness was passed down, but not knowing how to keep money and make money, have your money make money. That is also a generational curse of entitlement. That's what I want to add to that. But keep going.
Okay. Well, I'll respond to that. See, for me, I don't separate knowledge and work habits. Everyone that take a road of creating their own wealth have to have work ethics, work habits, because without it, then there's you don't know how to build it from scratch. So I do know that a lot of families probably can teach you how to add and subtract, how to run the business. But one of the things, if I have a child and I want them to take over the business, they have to know how to work every aspect of the business, from taking out the trash to the CEO. Part of that knowledge is teaching them how to take out the trash to become the CEO. So yeah, there's a lot of families some families do make the mistake of only teaching the child how to become the CEO and not be able to become the worker. So I see that in wealth, but I know some rich families that unless you prove yourself to the family, unless you started low in the business and you was a worker bee, whether it's out in the field, then they're not going to give you the CEO position. There's people like Warren Buffett. You hear these guys, they say, my kids, I give them 60,000 a piece, or I'm not going to give them all my riches. And that's the logic behind it, because we as a CEO have to make a decision past our emotions, saying, hey, this is my child, but is this the best decision for my child to give him all these riches? And we have to think past emotions, because you pretty much know which child is going to be able to handle finances, which one can take over a business. So I think part of the knowledge is to teach them the work ethic. Yes, chocolate pearl. Yes.
I just wanted, it was something that you said earlier that kind of reminded me of a topic that we discussed about, about basically generations as well, where I had Dr. Feelgood play a video about, I forget who it was, but he was talking about the generations
Aaron McKee.
Yeah. Have you seen that? Dr. Feelgood, can you remind him, can you tell us again what the scenario of that? It kind of reminded me of what he was talking about, the generational curses, and it's like almost similar to that topic.
Yes. Aaron McKee is the current basketball coach for Temple University. He took over for the legendary John Chaney, if you're familiar with college basketball. He played in the NBA. He gave on a speech he gave, he was saying that his grandfather walked 10 miles to school. His father walked 5 miles to school. He drove a Ford. His son will drive a Mercedes. His grandson will drive a Porsche, but his great grandson will walk to school. And he said, well, why? He says, hard times make good men, strong men. Strong men make good times make weak men. And the cycle continues. And that's kind of what Chocolate Pearl was talking about. And
Right.
what you're talking about, and how do we get to where we are, and how do we go forward from there?
Right. How do we, so with that scenario, it was to me, and what you're talking about today is that back then you had hardworking people, but then they got to a point where they were getting lackadaisy about life in general, whether it was work, whether it was family, whether it was personal, and that they either took their bad habits and was an example to the next generation who took those same bad habits, and it trickled down like a domino effect to where that's what they learned, that's how they know, that's all they know. But with today's generation, I will say it's similar to that aspect in some ways, but they became more lazy, and they became the point where they feel that they're entitled to their life as privileged.
Absolutely.
And what we, as our generation, who actually almost in the middleman, because I feel that my generation, I'm 53 years old, so I feel that with Dr. Fabulous, Dr. Seductive, as well as my brother, Dr. Feel So Good, and a few others that's on here are in that same, age group, to where we were kind of in between, because we did see our generation where the men left the women, or the women who felt that they were, the head of household, to where our generation feels that we are being pulled different ways, because we still have that mentality of what our forefathers taught us to what we are dealing with the new generation of what they're doing. And we're kind of stuck in the middle of that generational curse, because we're creating a new generation, but we're confused on what that new generation should know. Did I make any sense on that?
I got to disagree.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Keith.
Hey,
Go ahead and debate that for me.
Well, you know what I think that okay, let's just say from slavery. If it was anybody in life that ever needed some therapy and counseling, should have been slaves. It had been beat into submission and still on the plantation. Now all of a sudden you open the gates up and tell me to go on free. And so, but in the process, I think we were so busy trying to reacclimate ourselves in the life and back into life. And it was even hard for us, because even when we were free, we weren't free, they were giving us a hard time, right? So what our parents taught us was some of that fear, some of that anxiety. Because how many times, I don't know about everybody, but my mother never sat down with me to do homework. We never talk about financing. So now what we've done is that if we became aware of that, we just want our kids to have a better life than we had. But in the process of giving them the better life, guess what we do? We spoil them.
That's what I'm saying. That's how we are caught. We were taught, our forefathers taught us a certain way, and we've seen certain things. But then we're stuck here because we're trying to still have those same values, but then we're trying to deal with the new generation and how we are creating them, because like you said, we are spoiling them. They feel that they are privileged to be alive. Therefore, feel that, you know, the world revolves around them and no one else, and that they don't have to strive as hard as we did to establish their life. And we, as this generation, are not standing by those values that we were taught. Because I know that even though my father and my mother were on drugs, they still taught us values that we still had to work hard. We still had to get our hustle on. My dad, even though he worked under the table a lot, when he lost his job at the hospital, he still was working hard and busting his behind, yes, to maintain his habits as well as take care of two families. So he showed us the value of hard work. And my brother and sisters and all of us today, we still hold those values. I mean, I've always got a little hustle on the side. My brother as well always got a hustle on the side. You know, it's just that something that we're learning. Fortunate for me at this particular time, I have 3 biological children, and maybe only 2 of them really took that on to where my youngest son, he'll be 30 this year, and he just bought built a 5-bedroom house. He got his own business. You know, he makes sure that he's on top of everything, and he's always striving to do better. So he does photography. He's a cosmetologist who owns a barbershop. You know, it's every time you turn around, he's got a new hustle. He learned how to do the microblading and the lip fillers and, you know, the different things, always so he can make sure that his family, and he himself said that he realized that his youngest son is spoiled, and that he feels that he's not going to know a value of $1. And he sees that now because that generation is giving everything to him and feel that's all you got to do, but you don't have to work for it. And we as a generational curse that we need to break at right now, because we're stuck in the middle. I feel we are stuck in the middle because we're trying to on our values, but we're scared. We don't know how to give it to the new generation.
Well,
All right. Well, thank you so much, Chocolate Pearl. I'm going to jump right in here. Douglas, I'm going to come back to you. So when we are looking at the generational curse, I'm going to come to you, Douglas, as a woman, and we're looking at a pattern. Do you think that, and I'm just saying because we know generational curse, as Keith stated, all the way back to slavery, when they sold the male baby from the mother at slavery. Do you think that has a separation anxiety now for the men of today? Keith, this is a conversation that Keith had brought up or sent in. So I'm going to let you elaborate on that further now, Keith, and then I'll come to you, Douglas, okay?
You know, I agree with you. I think something because Black men have always been transit. We've always seen transit in the household, because it's rare that we've seen a Black man in a household, the mama, the daddy, you know, the kids. So we haven't seen that. We've always seen that transitness, a man come and go. And so I think unconsciously men learn that behavior until they become conscious of that behavior. Because if they don't become conscious of that behavior, then they're going to repeat that same pattern. Babies over here, babies over there, you know, rather than just saying, hey, man, this is my family. Let me just stay with them. We're going to make this work. But we don't know how to do that. And I think that's a system that we have to be consciously aware of. You know, we have to make ourselves aware of it. Because what we don't realize, we're teaching, our kids are learning more from watching than you're telling them.
Okay. So I'm just going to give that overview. You're saying because it stemmed from a slavery point of view where the male species was sold off, you feel that that's where transism is coming from with some Black men. I'm not going to say all, because
it's not all of us, not all of them. You're absolutely right. You know, the thing is, until we recognize that we have some dysfunction, we can't be functional. It's just a conversation. The conversation makes us functional, because now we become aware of it. And I don't think even men that realize they're aware of it, that it's easier for a man to pick up and go and do everything. But mama gonna stay there. Mama ain't transit.
That's right. She gonna brood and be grounded with her children. Yeah, well, most mothers. I'm gonna say it like that. Most mothers.
What I'm gonna say. Most mothers. That's why I said we are stuck in that generation right now in between.
Right. So With that being said, I'm going to jump over to Douglas and then I'll get to you, Seductive. Go ahead, Douglas.
Right, you did introduce another point of comment in the middle of that. But I was going to go, I'm like, I know about the concept of generational curses and stuff. And I'm going to say, I don't know why we're talking about it, but anyway,
You say you don't know why we're talking about it?
You have to evaluate your current situation, determine what you want, and work toward it. But Chocolate Pearl brought up some comments that I recall from past sessions that I think you and a number of women in here on their hustle and stuff, which I was like, aha, that could be a generational curse where the man you're dealing with, if he doesn't do something in your time frame because you were shown how to hustle, you got to get it done. And now you was like, well, he just doesn't do things. He's not motivated enough for me. And I was like, aha, that could be some of the women's attitudes today could be a result of generational curses per se. Also with the man's mentality of being mobile and can be mobile. And also earlier, we said something about, we want to pass on generational wealth. But divorce can kill all that for some selfish reasons. Because he apparently did me wrong, or I didn't like how he was doing, or he wasn't motivational enough. So as y'all continue to stir the pot, things are popping up in my mind. And I understand how we were in slavery and stuff, but now after 56 years, it's like, okay, evaluate my situation. Do I enjoy my current situation? If yes, don't have to do anything else. If no, if you want to aspire to do something greater or larger, then work toward it and do it. And for, I think Chocolate Pearl, you said something about your son's child, his youngest, is 4, and his father sees it now. My question is, what is he doing to correct that? If he just keep doing what he's doing, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. That's why he mentioned that he realizes that, so he is going to correct that issue. But because his youngest son doesn't live with him, he has to do it now. Hopefully now, and hope that his mother will continue that training. But he sees it right now. But when I use that as an example of the, even when my children were younger, they had responsibilities, and I think a lot of parents, children in my age bracket and probably older, gave their children chores. Now, whether they gave them allowances for doing it or not, they still had responsibility. When you build responsibility, you build a strong foundation for your children to know that you can't get everything in life for free. You can't just be lazy. You have to work hard to do through life, period. In order to survive, you have to work. But now with this new agenda, this is what I'm saying with him. Every time we go out, even with me, every time we go out, he feels that he wants me to buy stuff, and I have to tell him no, but he doesn't understand. So, but other people allow him to get whatever they want. Oh yeah, I get it for you, what have you. But that's what I'm saying. He recognizes it now. But when I raised him, he knew that no. And if you want it, you have to earn it.
And one more comment to add to generational curses, if you will, is it could be married people with divorce or unmarried people having children where the woman gets pissed off at the man and doesn't let the child interact with the father until they get to 15, 16, and now the mom wants to come back and is like, he's out of control, you need to do something with him.
I don't know how you're putting that with generational curse, but that could be one source. So what I'm going to ask for you to do for me, Douglas, to write down your questions, and we're going to come back because I got another hand up, Dr. Seductive, then Keith, but keep in mind, write down so we can kind of zone right into your question because sometimes, Douglas, I have to analyze where you're coming from because you give me
Relapse.
about 10 or 15 questions at one
Relapse.
time. Okay?
Relapse. Relapse.
Stop it. Sit back,
Relapse.
Keith. Okay, Dr. Seductive, come on and bring me your thoughts.
Good evening again. And for those of you I haven't spoken to, Keith made a very valid point, and this is something that has been studied, that it is in our DNA. The trauma, the drama, the slavery is in our DNA. Okay, and so one of the things that we I know I did as a parent because I was taught the same thing, like like a white mom might say, "Oh, your son did so good in the play, right? Or did so good on the football field." And we may say as a parent, "Yeah, he got on the football field, but honey, he does not know how to clean that room."
Mm,
Well, why do we do that? You know why we did that? Because we didn't want the master to think our kid was so good. Because if they thought our kid was good, they would take them from us,
mm,
right? So we learn this mechanism of downplaying their good things,
Qualities, good
their
qualities.
qualities, and try to bring up something that was negative about them so that they wouldn't get taken from us,
mm,
right? And it's a lot of little things like that that you don't even realize that you do as a parent until somebody says, that's kind of in your DNA. That's that protection as a black mother that you've done for so long. It goes back to a story where a lady said when she baked her ham, she always cut off the end of it, right? She said, so somebody asked her, I think her kid asked, Mom, of why do you cut off the end of the ham before you bake it? She said, well, my mom always cut the end of the ham off. So she said, well, Grandma, why did you always cut the end of the ham off? She said, well, my mom always cut the end of the ham off. And then I guess they asked the grandmother, like, why did you cut it? She said, because I didn't have a big enough pan.
Oh my
So
God. Wasted
I never
hand.
had a big enough pan. So
That's
we do these
hilarious.
things because and that's a generational thing. Well, I saw my mama do it this way. I saw, and that can also go into how Douglas was saying, about, how we treat our spouses and or how we treat our friends because we saw that treatment from
mm,
our parents. But Keith, you are so right. That's something that is ingrained in our DNA, and we've
mm,
lived it for so long that we think it's okay. It's one of the reasons why African American people have, or is African American women especially, we have this superwoman type thing. Like we got to try to do everything. We got to try to do it by ourselves because we can't depend on no man. And I'm not trying to man bash. I'm not trying to, but that's something that we have had to learn to do because, as you said earlier, the woman stayed put, right? But our men were sold off, right? And sometimes our women were too, but a lot of times the men were sold off. And so we've gotten it to this point now where we got to try to do everything. And you know what that causes us to do? Have high blood pressure,
mm,
causes us to be depressed,
mm,
causes us to take on a lot of responsibilities and things that we never really had to take
Be
on
angry.
because we don't know how to let
angry.
go. We don't know how to acquiesce the power,
All
right?
right now.
So that's something that we really need to look into. Keep that was really good. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And Keith, you have your hand up. Go ahead, and then I'm gonna come to you, Frank. And from that, I'm gonna pass the baton on to the beautiful chocolate pearl. So come on, Keith, and give me what you have.
Hey, first of all, let me chocolate pearl. It's something I realized that you did say. I realized why our kids have been spoiled because when our parents was coming up, they didn't have nothing. They weren't educated. They didn't have the kind of money or the access to money that we have. And so when we got it, then we just, without thinking, I think we just tried to make their lives more functional in that way. But I want to say that I think for black men too, and I'm me personally, it's because I think the way your parents told you they love you was, you had a place to stay, you had food to eat, the lights were on, so that was love. And I had a situation where Somebody said something to this young guy, and he got so disturbed. He stormed from his aunt's house. He was just mad. And so the dad pulled up, and they told the dad. And so the dad said, well, he just always acting like this. The dad said everything. I said, but man, your son hurting. Do you realize he hurting? Do you realize you might could get on the phone and call him and say, baby, come on back here. Let daddy give you a hug. Let's talk about it. We don't know how to do that as men. We don't let our guard down enough. We always have to have this macho thing on them. We don't know how to be soft at the time we need to be soft with our kids, especially with males. Sometimes the only thing your son might need is a hug. Say, come on, baby, we're going to work this out. And I told him, man, if you think you failed your son, go to your son. Say, son, you know what? I wasn't a good dad. I didn't do all the things I should have did. I realized that today I failed you. But you know what? How can we pick up and move forward? I want to work on that. So I ain't doing that.
Well, thank you, Keith. Come on, Frank. You
Yes,
got your hand up.
Yeah, I want to touch on a few points. Number one, I wish I had a nickel for every mom or Black person that I hear say, I want to work hard so my son or my daughter don't have to work hard, right? So they
won't be one of those people.
Yeah, but there's a lot of us out there, right? There's a plenty of us that the parents are like, I work hard, so you won't have to work hard. And that's wrong.
That's right.
Because you're not teaching a work ethic, and then they become spoiled. But here's another thing when it comes to spiritual, right? On the spiritual side, we no longer have a community. Churches are kind of watered down. It's about prosperity, about wealth, not about mentality, not more about morals. It's more about, let me pray for God. If you're God's child, you're going to get blessing. You're going to get a big house. I got people praying over houses, praying over cars every day. Not only that, when it comes to morals, how many of us, we can't teach our child something that we haven't learned? How many Black moms, how many Black fathers teach their children no sex before marriage? All right. So you want to talk about generational curses? Well, that happens when you got kids raising kids, because we might be raised in the suburbs, but the suburbs and the cities, where there's a lot of us young Black people living in the cities, there's kids raising kids. And part of that is because the parents don't teach, hey, about purity. Hey, young lady, save yourself. Make that man work for you. Make sure he got good morals. Make sure he opened the door for you. Make sure that he's maybe God-fearing. But at least if you're not going to believe in God, which the new generation don't believe in as a whole anyway, at least you could teach the morals that come from it. But a lot of us are single parents. A lot of us had kids before we were married, right? So you got, and then you got diseases killing us. You got jail killing us because we don't have morals. So we talk about a lot of things, but we don't create standards. We don't normalize no sex before marriage. That's not something that the Black community even talks about.
At all.
Yet we're supposed to be so spiritual. We're supposed to be so church-like, but something like that would change a whole generation on its own, because now you'll have a stronger marriage. Now you have a better relationship. Marriages will definitely go past the normal 8 years that they last now, okay? So you won't have as much heartbreak, and you won't have as many single parents. So that cancels out a lot of the issues. So we're not going to the core, which is the core is to have standards, all right? And then when you got 2 incomes, then you can buy a house, right? Because it's not a pressure on one person to provide with a single mom having 3, 4 kids living in the house. She can't get her finance, she can't get her credit together, all right? So, and then for some of you women that's, women that say, hey, with these men are no good. Well, you sleeping and having babies with these no good men. All right?
Now you're preaching, Frank.
So you're not creating a standard. You're not creating a standard which would prevent all these things that we're talking about. It's like the branches. We need to go to the seed. The seed is we don't have we don't teach values, core values.
Yes.
The branches are broken home. That's the branches. But what caused the broken homes? Your daughter getting pregnant at 15.
Yeah.
Okay. Or your daughter even at 18. Your daughter not being married to and then first before having a child.
Seeking love in another place. Yes, seeking love in the wrong places too.
Correct. Right. So we don't normalize as a community. A lot of single moms should be preaching. Let's make sure you get married before you even have intercourse, because it was hard for me being a single mom, and that man may not stay with me because he didn't have to make a commitment to me.
Right.
But they're also taught that they are independent and strong and don't need no man.
Yeah. Well, of course, because they forced to be independent and strong. All right. I'm not just talking about the women. I'm not just talking about the women. Oh, I'm sorry. Do I need to hold?
No, go right ahead, Frank.
No, I'm not talking about just the women. The men need to have standards and say, I want a wife before I, it ain't just about the women. The men need to be like, I'm going to wait. I'm going to find me a wife before I move on. It's not just a female thing. Men are taught to be macho. That is good in our community. Our music videos, okay? Our all on social media. We're taught to have a lot of women. Okay.
They have a whole concubine.
A whole concubine, that makes you the most popular man.
So original pimp, Punky.
That's
player.
Right. So a player, right? So we're taught that even by our fathers. So what if the father say, hey son, there's a lot of women out here, but you save yourself. What about his purity for the right woman? Because you honoring God. And then it comes together. It's not just for the women. The men need to be that way too. And then all of a sudden, we will have stronger families, we have stronger households. See, we fell away from God's law. All right.
Hey, Frank, can I ask you something, Frank? Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So that ties right back into the basis of what we're talking about. Who taught them those behaviors? It was this. So we're talking about dysfunction. So somebody learned them that dysfunctional behavior.
Well, here's the thing. Who taught us life should be teaching us. See, we got too many single households, and we're not learning from our mistakes. You should learn that you can't be having babies with people that are not committed to you. We're not learning from that. So no matter if you taught it, my mom, my dad, or your mom and your dad that had babies and they weren't married first, or single moms, or you got a single mom and you didn't know your dad, why didn't she learn that she needed to have a commitment first? We're not
because her mama taught her that bad behavior, and her mama's taught her that bad behavior. So it's been generational. Now the thing is, once we recognize something that is dysfunctional, how do we start to make it functional?
Well, the thing about it is, for me, right, we definitely learned a habit. All right, my mom was a single mom. Now her daughter's a single mom. And then there's the same thing repeatedly. What I'm saying is, when is the single mom, when is the daughter going to say, no more kids without a commitment? When is that ever going to snap? When are we going to learn from
when somebody like you, when somebody like you can bring that conversation to her, because she may not be consciously aware of her behavior because she's learned it from her mama and her mama learned it from her mama, until she's consciously aware. Even your conversation she may not change immediately, but simply because you had that conversation with her, somewhere down the road, it's going to click, man, wow, that makes sense. But unless we bring it to her, we can't tell you dysfunctional. We can't say you're dysfunctional without telling you how to be functional.
Well, you're right. And you're 100% right. And that's why I have a problem with the churches. They build a new church next as much as they build a new liquor store. Okay. So how is it that if these are biblical principles that they're not being taught in our community, who are supposed to be the most spiritual people walking the earth?
I think they're being taught, they're just not being practiced.
Of itching ears. The doctrine of itching ears.
Oh,
go to
yeah.
what you want to hear, and that's why there are more churches being built. If you say, that's why you have a First Baptist and a Second Baptist and a Third Baptist, and then you have the Free Will Baptist, because there was
New Mount
something that
Zion and
you
Old Mount
right,
Zion.
and you heard,
Okay.
New Bethel and Old
And,
Bethel.
you heard something
Episcopal,
you did
Holy.
not
Oh,
want
yeah,
to
time
hear.
out, y'all, time out.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna jump in
You
right
heard what you
here.
want to hear, though.
Hold on one moment for me, Frank. I'm gonna come to Heather, and then I'll come back to you, Douglas, and then lead back to you, Frank, so we can give it over to Chocolate Pearl. Come on, Heather. Let me hear what you're saying this evening, and welcome everyone. If I didn't get a chance to say welcome to you in the very beginning.
Hey everybody, this is I love this dialogue. I think it's an important discussion. I think a lot of things have been touched under this umbrella of, just intergenerational and generational just issues that we all have dealt with. I think my experience coming from a West Indian household, where my grandmother raised me, my mom had issues, my father had issues. All I saw was a strong Jamaican woman who took care of her 5 kids when her husband kind of left her and was with other women. And my grandmother, even at 93, right now, strong, no nonsense woman, she's like the general, and that's all I saw was like, I have to take care of my children. I don't care about these men out here because my children are my priority. Values and standards is something that she definitely put into her children, her grandchildren, but it didn't stop all of them from being victims of the drug world, crime, and all kinds of stuff, but she had to raise her grandchildren. A lot of these generational issues, I do believe, comes from that enslaved period. And somehow over the years, over the generations, like you see these iterations of just a downward spiral. And trying to get to the core of some of these issues is a conversation. And a lot of my years I spent working in Brooklyn. I'm from the Bronx in New York City. And I'm working with young people, teenagers and adolescents whose parents are struggling to even raise them with values, or they're just trying to work. And trying to teach them basic life skills was a challenge for me to see, because I'm like, wow, like my grandmother taught me all of this stuff. What's going on? Like, what's going on in these households? If you don't know, you can't teach. Financial literacy, trying to teach young people about the work world, about work ethic, which has been touched upon. Teaching kids that, when you go to a job interview, you need to have attire for that. And you need to engage your parents. And it can't be, let me go put on some Gucci sneakers. Like, it's just like everything that young people have been taught by their young parents or their older parents has been from a mindset of, I want to make sure that they had more than I had. But it's not helping. It's not helping to a point. And sitting down trying to reteach and re-engage young people into the society that changes its values from day to day, where now the television is raising the kids. You got the young women who's out here talking about, I want to get my body done because I want to impress these men, and I want to get a Gucci bag, and I want to have babies with him, and I want to be taken care of. From the young men who's just like, I just want to smash everything out here. I don't care about diseases. I don't care about spreading my seeds all over the world and having to take care of these kids. It's just so destructive. Sometimes it feels like, where do you begin? You can say spirituality, but where do you even begin? And I think right now, just the dialogue is so important. And I remember we'd have shows on television to touch on some of this stuff, to have these conversations, and we're not having them anymore. Like, we have so many celebrities that have so much wealth. Why are they not investing in financial literacy for intergenerational neighborhoods throughout all of these places? Like, that's another thing. Just economic freedom is a big thing. I feel like I'm touching on so much, but I'm gonna stop right there.
So thank you, Heather. It's always good to hear from you. And of course, I'm gonna jump right on over here to Douglas, who's gonna give me about 25 questions in one sentence. But I'm ready for you, Douglas. Give me what you got. I'm ready.
Only 24. Well, first of all, we talk about stuff like functional and dysfunctional and things of this nature without defining it. We talked about young girls having babies out of wedlock and stuff. And for them, that's okay. What I have develop into is what's the baseline? What is
The
your standard?
baseline, Douglas,
Who
you asked me.
defines? Wait, I'm just throwing out questions here. Who defines what is functional and what's dysfunctional?
That's just it. It's to each individual. Functionality is just what it is, functionality. Some people are functioning alcoholics, go to work every day, drink, 24/7. But guess what? They are functional.
Hold up.
I'm listening.
I'm saying we are looking at other people's lives and saying they're dysfunctional. But what I'm
No, we're
saying
not
is,
saying.
look, what I'm saying is, I'm asking what is the baseline?
The baseline is individuality.
Can I finish?
Everybody is different. Go ahead, Douglas. I'm listening.
Can I finish?
Give it to me, Douglas.
What I'm
Because
saying
you take
is
me around the world and back.
Boy, my sister got some patience.
Hey, well, speaking about generational curses, my mom did tell me that I'll go around the block to go next door. So
I know,
it's in my nature.
because we've been around the world. But I'm waiting for you. I'm catching that next train.
But what I'm saying, we said we got to wait for Christian principles. Everyone doesn't follow Christian principles. But my bottom line is, okay, I earn money as a software tester, which I have to know the baseline, and I have to know what's expected so I can know if it deviates from the requirement stated. And all this is true. We grab something at the 10th hour instead of evaluating it at the 0 hour in the beginning. It's, to me, we're going all over the place with it. And first of all, with anything, I ask people like, well, what's your baseline? What are you stating? Because if a young girl sees her mother had 3 kids and got government support and got child support from different men and living a good life, that's her picture. That's what she wants to.
That's all she knows. But what we're saying is, how are we going to break the cycle, Douglas?
Drugs, and hustling, and getting money and getting women, and that's his viewpoint. That's what he will strive to be. But we'll say like, oh no, you need to get a 9 to 5, or you need to get a side hustle and everything. But there's no baseline. People just
Hey Douglas, Douglas, that's not what we're saying.
That's
we're
what I'm
saying,
hearing.
No, I don't know how you hear that, Doug. You must be on a different channel than we're on.
I didn't want to say that.
My thing is, I apologize.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing. It's all over.
No, you're not hearing that. What we're hearing is that there are some things that we've inherited from slavery that we brought into the 20th century that we need to work on. There are some things, because I don't know about you, but they never sat down and talked about wealth at my house, talking about buying a house or doing this. I just happen to hear that out there hanging around other people. Douglas, I was fortunate of that. When I grew up, my best friend was a white dude, and so when I went to his house, I saw the same mama, same daddy, same sister, all of them with the same daddy, sitting down, cutting TV off, 7 to 9, studying homework. Mama checking them. To me, I said, "Oh my God, we just function like an F when I go home, because we ain't doing that." So my mama coming to the screen door at 9 o'clock. Get you in this house, So
exactly. You're proving my point. I'm saying you look at the white family and say, "Oh, we're dysfunctional over here in the black family." And my question is, who sets the standard, or what standard do you want to adhere to? First of all,
I just made a left turn, right?
So I think brother Keith, I think I actually understand where Douglas is coming from tonight. I think that there's a lot to unpack. That's very clear. There's a lot to unpack, and I think that when I came into this, I thought we were going to discuss, these type of dysfunctional issues as it related to relationships and stuff like that. Because I think we can definitely run the gamut of issues in our community and how it relates to the topic. So I think maybe trying to hone it in a little bit would make it easier for people to follow the conversation and contribute more.
This is my last statement. When I was growing up, if a young woman got pregnant, you would see someone and then they would disappear. and years later you find out they had a child. Now single moms be pregnant, be sitting on the front pew of the church with no shame, no regards. So societal standards have changed. So there again, back in the day, we had a standard where we didn't allow that, but now today, it's okay. Be you, feel free. And then again, like the church, oh, it's okay. You made a mistake. It's all right. This is your fourth time making a mistake, but it's okay. Instead of, I grew up on the fire and brimstone sermons. You're going to hell if you have a kid out of wedlock. All that stuff. But society has changed, and the baseline, the standard has changed.
Douglas, I tried to tell my son if he decided to stick his thing in anybody's hole, I was gonna cut it off. That never worked. He got 4 kids.
Okay, well, we understand that, but we're gonna try to bring the pot back and let it cook. But Heather, we're gonna move on. Right. I'm gonna move on and say with the generation, and this is just an open question to anyone on the panel. With the generational curse, and as Keith said, a young lady saw a mother have babies, this, that, and the other, and she followed that pattern. Ladies, question to the ladies, do you feel that because of some men, their generational curse of seeing their father move on without being there in the household, do you feel that that's the reason why some men do the same thing? Papa Doc, you got your hand up. Go ahead and answer that question for us.
Well, I don't know if I could answer that question. I kind of want to piggyback off of what I've been listening to. So I've been hearing a lot of word functional and dysfunctional. What about structure and non-structure in the family? Like Keith was talking about, he went to the white people house. They just had structure that he didn't have. I wouldn't necessarily say dysfunctional.
Well, I don't.
But again, who defines that? It goes back to that question that's been asked all night. Who defines that? Why are we making those comparisons for our community versus another community? Like going back to those standards questions. Like who defines that?
Right. Well, the family defines it. That's why I said who has structure and who doesn't have structure versus dysfunctional. Okay, because I don't care, white family, black family, whatever. There's always, a wildflower in the bunch, that's going to stick out, So, and then to go back off of Keith with, the generational slavery. I remember seeing a clip from Dr. Omar saying, you got to remember, they didn't get rid of all the men on the plantation because they allowed us to get married on the plantation. So how did you get, they sold off all the men or most of the guys,
They did sell them
because
off. They kept studs around to mate everybody. They have more babies to sell them off. We're property, we're merchandise.
Well, what about the people that got married on the plantation? You can't.
It was okay to be married, but the master wanted your wife. He was going to take your wife.
Those were few and far between. That's why we had to jump the broom. We didn't have like official marriages.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, yeah, okay.
What's an official marriage?
Yeah, answer that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because what made it official?
Right.
They weren't on the books, you know what I mean? Like they weren't written in the book.
Okay, well, people, it has been a blast for Dr. Fabulous and my time. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Chocolate Pearl. So Chocolate Pearl, take that swirl and get it rotating up in here, because I'm going to pass my time on over to Chocolate Pearl. So